Before this lesson, you have to know what it means to raise a note a half step and to lower a note a half step. I'm going to explain it with examples. If we have this G here and I were to raise it a half step, that would make it a higher pitch, and we would wind up with G sharp, or depending on the context, an A flat. Now, if we were to lower this G a half step, we'd move it down and lower the pitch by that much, and we'd get a G flat or an F sharp. Each line represents a note, and in between each line, a note is also represented. And in between these two lines is F, in between these two lines is A, in between these, C, and E. Now this line represents E, G, B, D, F. This symbol makes these lines and spaces in between lines represent these notes. Now if you watched the last video I made, I talked about how there are more notes than A, B, C, D, E, F, G, which are shown here. So this, which we call a key signature, a pattern of sharps or flats at the beginning of a piece, indicates alterations to these note letters. This one specifically has a flat on the B, so we bring the B down a half step. This also has a flat on the E, which we bring down a half step every time we see it, and this has a flat on the A, which means we bring it down a half step every time we see it. It would be a tedious and lengthy process to look at a note every time we saw it and have to look back to the beginning where the key signature was to figure out whether or not it's altered. So what we do is we take a shortcut. From the key signature, we figure out what the key is, and we play notes within that scale. The key can either have flats or sharps. So when we're reading music, there's figuring out the key from the flats, and there's figuring out the key from the sharps. Before we do that, we have to memorize a pattern of letters. For the flats, we memorize B, E, A, D, G, C, F, and for sharps, we memorize F, C, G, D, A, E, B. A trick to memorizing it is to start off saying it slow, and then maintain your pronunciation and speed up the process. So B, E, A, D, G, C, F, and eventually you'll say B, E, A, D, G, C, F. Then eventually you'll say F, C, G, D, A, E, B. And a lot of people seem to mix these two letters up, A, E, and E, A, when they're saying it, so be very careful about that. Okay, so let's say in the key we're given 3 flats. Those flats have to be B, E, A. The next question is, what is the key, and what is the scale we will use for that key? The process for figuring out the key is to go to the second last flat in the series, and that will be your key. So if you have 4 flats, your flats will be B, E, A, D flats, all flats, and your key will be A flat, because that's the second to last letter in the series. Now let's say you had 7 flats, B, E, A, D, G, C, F were all flat. Then C flat would be your key. And that's where you would start building your scale from. For sharps, you look at this series, F, C, G, D, A, E, B, and you find the last sharp and you raise it a half step, and that will give you the key. So if you have 3 sharps, F, C, G, they will be F, C, G because it always starts here and goes this way. If you have 4 sharps, it'll be F, C, G, D, and if you have 5, it'll be F, C, G, D, A. So let's say we have 2 sharps in our key, F and C, sharps. We look at the C sharp and we raise C sharp 1/2 step to get D, and D is our key. Let's say we have 3 sharps in our key signature. Then G sharp is the last sharp, so we raise that a half step to get A, and A is our key when we have 3 sharps. Let's say we have 4 sharps. We have D sharp at the end, so we raise that to get E major, or to get E, and that is our key, and we play within E major. Let's say E sharp is the last sharp, which means there's 6 sharps. F sharp would be the key signature. That is because in between E and F, there is no half step. When you have an E sharp, you essentially have an F. You call it an enharmonic to an F because it makes the same sound as an F. And from that, you go a half step up and you get F sharp. And a similar phenomena happens with the B here. When you move a half step up because there's a pinch point in between B and C. So if you have B sharp, you basically have a C, and then you move that a half step up to a C sharp, and then you have your key. The two exceptions to this rule are a C major scale and an F major scale. The F major, just remember that it has one flat and it's a B flat. Boom. And the C major scale has no sharps or flats. For the guitar, this is the shape that yields a major scale starting from this point. The reason I didn't draw a head here and the reason I didn't draw a body here and no fret markers here, is because this is a shape that can be moved all over the guitar. Wherever you put this, it will be a major scale starting from here. If you figure out the key, all you have to do is find the note on the bottom string, and that will be the starting point for making this shape, and you will be playing the major scale. Let's say you're playing an A major scale because you noticed that there were 3 sharps in your key. Then this would be your scale, and you would play A, B, C sharp, because the C is here, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, because the F is here. Remember the pinch points, B to C and E to F. This shape already incorporates the major scale intervals, so it already shifts the note where we needed them to be. Then we have G sharp. Remember, G is here, and if you use 3x3 relationship, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, this is the 3rd fret, and we remember that the G is on the 3rd fret on the 6th string. And remember, this is the floor and this is your face when you're looking down at the guitar. So this is a G sharp and this is an A, and we're back to A again. 3x3 relationship. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now this is a B and this is a C sharp. The C is really here, and this is a D. So if we keep going, we'll find this to be accurate.